everyone, welcome to Homeschool Autism Life. My name is Jamie. Today's video, I am talking about church and autism and the expectations therein. And I got this idea from my friend Leilani as she was chatting about something, an experience that she's been having. And I wanted to leave that link down below because I think it has a lot of value, but I wanted to add something that I think is really important when we're dealing with the expectations of when we have a child with special needs, what we hope, what we think, what we desire our different lived experience to be, and oftentimes it doesn't live up. And how that is okay, and just those types of ideas. I have notes down here because again my videos can go on for a while, and so I wanted to keep track of everything. But the first thing I want to say is, if you have a church family that envelops you and your family and your special needs child in really, really special ways. I have read about them. I have seen videos of them. I know they exist in the world, and I am so thrilled for you that that is your experience. That is epic and awesome. I can only talk from my experience, and so I don't want that to color any of your experience if you have that amazing church family that does that for you. No, just all the happy feelings for you. The thing that I wanted to say is no matter what you're dealing with when you're going out in the world with your special needs child, oftentimes you are dealing with humans. And humans, whether they have faith or not, can be very uncomfortable with things that they don't know, that they don't recognize, that they don't have any idea how to deal with. And it doesn't even come from a place of malice. Most often it comes from a place of not wanting to do things wrong, wanting to be kind but not knowing like proper terminology. And as the world has gotten more crazy, that like magnified like crazy, because everybody's feelings get hurt so easily, and it's gotten to the place where humans just kind of like go, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me, you can't see me. And that feeling of just like, means that even when they're trying to be kind and nice, sometimes it doesn't work. And then if they are bold, sometimes it doesn't work because the understanding is not there, right? So at the end of the day, fair or not, you as the parent of a special needs child is it. It is. It just is the way it is. And the expectation that your church family should just be able to envelop you and understand the needs that your family has, or how your child is going to deal with this situation or that situation. I mean, you as a special needs parent already know that that's not the way this works, because I talk over and over and over again about adjusting. If you have a plan for your child and it's not working, you have to adjust, and then adjust again, and then adjust again and again and again, because there are things that our children do that they're like, okay, I'm comfortable with this for the next 3 years, and then the next time you go out, they're like, hi-ya. Like, there are times where we're going through his puberty, and going to church was never an issue, and now all of a sudden it is, and trying to navigate that. And so it's something that I've learned. Never, ever, ever do I expect anyone else to just, I don't know, by osmosis or by seeing that there's a need, is going to jump in and fix, because they don't understand, right? And so I think the last thing that I wanted to say, and this might go on for a bit, is that you have to offer yourself grace. You have to offer yourself grace, because they don't come with a manual. I joke all the time about I would have rather stayed pregnant for an extra month if it came with a manual, if my baby came with a manual and it said, okay, when he hits puberty, this is what the world's going to look like, and this is how you're going to handle these situations. Like, I want the cheat sheet. I want the cheat sheet. And right now, my cheat sheet is, Lord, I give it to you, use my hands and feet, and because you understand his brain far better than I do. But an instruction manual would have been like awesome. The other part of it is offer grace to your church family. And so what I mean by that is, when things happen, maybe your child isn't handling things well, or maybe they're making lots of noises, and you are going, okay. So I'll give an example. When our kids were really young, we were in this small little town church, and we loved it. We loved it there, but we moved away. And then when we came back, our children were grown more, and that church didn't offer things like Sunday school. And I recognized that Darian's noises, the things that he made, would just be amplified in that tiny little building. And so we went looking for a church that's loud and noisy, and found the church that we're in right now, which had a different child's program. But the children's program, they had all the kids, as soon as they were kicked out of nursery, then they were in this room with all of the other kids, and the youth group was the one that was leading the kids, doing actions in the songs and whatever. And Darian's noise was just enveloped by everybody else's noise, and yeah, that was awesome for us. Now, the second part of that is, did I just leave him in there with the youth leaders and the Sunday school teacher and say, okay, bye-bye, I'll see you? No, I didn't. And the main reason that I didn't was because I recognized, after being in the school system and having friends who would say, oh, I'm going to take the kids to the park, you take your time or whatever. And I would say things like, don't let go of him, because at that point he was doing the eloping. I would say, do not let him go. And it would take a moment of just, oh, I have to go tie my shoe. And he would shoot, and they would be like, oh, and I would be like, And Darian has trained us well. We are well trained, and not everybody is. And so there were many times where my husband went to church and my kids and I went to the kids' town, and that was the way things are. You also, the best way is to talk to your church leadership about the things that you need. So we did have a minister who came to our house for dinner, and we had offered to pray for him and just said, we don't know what's going on in the church, because we're kind of on the fringes. We go to church and we come home, because Darian's like, once church is over, we're gone. And we don't have, we don't have gossip, whatever. And so we said, we are offering to pray for your ministry, and if there's anything you need prayer about, please don't hesitate. And he said, well, is there anything we can do to help your family, as your son specifically? And I said, could we have a room that our kids can retreat to in the event that they're having a difficult moment, or there's too much noise, or whatever. Now, that's not exactly how it worked out. That space ended up being our Sunday school room, because Darian wasn't going to go to high school Sunday school. And so we used that room for that purpose, and we did different things there. And then eventually he was like, no more Sunday school. And so now we don't use that room, but that room is available for the other children that might have difficulties. And so that's how it worked. But it was led by someone asking a question and then led by me and my friend, who we were like, okay, these are the sensory toys, these are the things that we can find at the thrift store. Yeah, there was those types of things, but it was, spearheaded and done by me and a couple friends to make it work. And that's just how it has to be. um, give grace to your church, because again, like I said, it's not always a comfortable thing for them to just say, okay, we're going to take this on. They may need a lot of input from you. They might not even realize that you have a need, and so you might have to ask for something. And like I said, there are times where we get comments and from the church family who don't understand. And then sometimes we have comments from people who are like, well, can I take him? Like, I'd like him I'd like to be involved in your son's life. And I've had to just say no, because he was like, well, I do ministry to elderly folk, and he could help me with putting on or taking their walkers and putting it on the bus. And I'm like, that's not going to be help. Like, he's not going to be a help. In fact, I'd be more worried that he would knock over an elderly person and that would not be a help. And so I've had to explain sometimes. It's very thoughtful and it's very kind, but again, if you've met one child with autism, you've met one child with autism. And that's become very clear because he has a grandson who has autism. And so he thought Darian was a lot like his grandson. And I had to explain, no, he's not. He's a little bit more severe. He doesn't have conversational skills. So you saying do this, he's not going to, right now, if depending on what the outing is, he either dresses himself or I dress him. So there's not going to be that, oh, okay, this is what I do and I get gratification from doing this. We've had experiences where they're like, you guys need a date, and so we're gonna watch your son and daughters for a whole day and a night so you guys get a date. And again, I've had to explain, I don't think that's gonna work. Like, I appreciate the sentiment, but it's not going to happen. And again, that's not me wanting them not to have input or love on us or whatever. But when I say, for me, he doesn't go to sleep until 2 or 3 in the morning, and you are in your 70s, I'm not going to ask you to do that. And that's me, where he's comfortable in his home with his mother. He's not going to sleep all night with you. So, yeah. Again, handling all of that with grace and the ability to be, fully recognize that our lives look different than anyone else's, and that's okay. We're in the process of signing up for guardianship, which means we're signing up to do this for another 15, 20, 30 years. The way I see it is, this is my job, and it doesn't mean that my job isn't always easy, and it doesn't mean that it isn't hard sometimes, but there are joys that I can find. And I just appreciate when I can tell somebody the best you can do is pray. Pray for our marriage, pray for our ability to have energy and wisdom to know what to do when life takes a turn we don't expect, or our son responds to something he's always responded in one way and suddenly it's different. Those are more helpful. Or take me out for tea sometime on a weekend when my husband's home, or like, those are the things that I look at and go are way more helpful. So if you're a church family member and somebody in your church who's struggling, or who has a child with special needs, and you want to reach out, send them flowers. send them flowers and say, I'm thinking about you, praying for you, something like that. Or talk to them and say, how can we come alongside and build you up? Is there a way that we can love on you that is helpful to you? And if they go, I don't know, I don't really have an idea, then say, how about I just take you for coffee sometime or tea? They're going to feel seen in a way that they've never felt seen before. Our experience has usually been out on the outside in the fringes, and it's only until somebody goes, I see the work that you do, and I am, a lot of times I'm amazed by how you guys handle things. And I go, I'm just living life. Like, I don't. But when somebody outside of that circle sees your hard work, you feel seen, you feel loved on, you feel different than you did before. And oftentimes, especially with special needs, we feel the judgment more than we feel we're cheering you on. So I will leave Leilani's video down below where she talks about this as well. But I just wanted to, encourage those who are struggling. I know I've heard of the stories, I've seen the videos, but I've also known that there's been seasons in those families' lives where they weren't able to go to church for 2 or 3 years. And so I really just want to encourage you that nothing outside of the home, often inside the home too, is straightforward and easy. And I hope that this encourages you, that you can have a church experience with your family. It's just going to look different than everyone else's, and that's okay, because that's life. Nothing is fair. And I just wanted to encourage. So thank you so much for your time. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.